Om Shanti. Very special greetings for the festival of Shivratri. And so we are celebrating a very, very special event. But the beautiful thing is that this is not just a celebration of something that happened 5,000 years ago or maybe 10,000 years ago and is lost in the midst of time. It's actually something that we're participating in right now. God actually comes to show us the way out of the darkness to the light.
You know, when you talk about knowing God, it's a fairly tall order. You know, but knowing self, it almost sounds impossible. So, is it necessary to know yourself before you get to know God? Is that somehow linked together? Or can you do one without the other?
What is it that I need to do in order to know myself?
Om Shanti, good evening everyone. So, very clear that this first step towards experiencing God's love is to know the self, to sit quietly. So we relax the body. You're welcome to either close your eyes or even to focus Meditation is a very simple process. It is a question of turning your thoughts and attention inwards. Most of our day, our energy and focus is out there in the world. But now we turn within. The first thing we become aware of are our thoughts. The mind is accustomed to creating thought voluntarily. We just observe those thoughts. This is part of my inner world, invisible to the eye, but very real. Not only thoughts, but feelings. And as we observe the mind, we can't help but notice that the thoughts slow down. And we begin to feel more peaceful. What are we experiencing? This is who I am on the inside. Beyond all my roles and responsibilities and the masks that I wear, here is the eternal and original self, the soul. so silent. Naturally peaceful. It is in this silent state that we begin our connection with God.
I'm sure God is communicating on a certain frequency. How do we get hold of that frequency and tune into it? What's the best way of connecting with God and then building a relationship with Him?
I like the word you used, wavelength. And you're right, when we want to develop a relationship with anyone, we need to somehow get ourselves onto the same wavelength. But in order to do that, you need to know something about the other person. For example, if you want to develop a relationship with someone who is much older than you, let's say a grandparent, to get onto their wavelength, you have to know something about what they're interested in. You couldn't talk about the latest iPhone or something like that. So the same applies to creating a relationship with God. One of the things that I see as an obstacle is our tendency to project. What we've done is we have projected human qualities onto God. And there's something called the map of consciousness, which I found very useful. It was created by a very great psychiatrist, David Hawkins. It's called the map of consciousness. And what he did was he took the whole spectrum of human emotions, from the very lowest emotions of, let's say, shame and apathy, guilt, going up the scale to fear, anger, and then up into the positive qualities of hope and joy and spiritual love. And then what he did, he showed how when we are in these different emotional states, our way of connecting to God changes. So, for example, if I'm in a state of fear, then my understanding or my experience of God is that God is a punitive God. If I'm angry, then I experience God to be an angry God. And then, of course, in the positive qualities, as we go up, as we become more joyful, more loving ourselves, how does our experience of God change then? So we definitely have this tendency to see God through the eyes of what we ourselves are experiencing.
What image comes to your mind when you talk about connecting with God or a relationship with God? What's your view?
Let us experience this beautiful communication of I, the soul. I have the inner I, the I of the soul. The soul, the sparkling energy, the radiating energy, the eternal energy, which lives forever. And so it's this energy that radiates my inner hidden qualities that I thrive for, and I'm wanting to be closer to that. And those qualities brings me closer to the Supreme, to God. The quality of love. We all want to be loved, and we want to love others. Love is deep within each one of us, and this unites me, connects me with the Supreme, with God, the higher source, the higher energy.
We live in a world which has got so much of unrighteous behavior and cruelty and fear and everything else. And after all of that is over, when there's a new morning, a new dawn that comes in, where you're able to forget yourself as in the body, and you're able to connect with God, you're truly experiencing unlimited happiness. I think that's roughly what it translated to. So we have known ourselves, we've had an experience of God, we've connected to God. I mean, the next thing that we'll be discussing is around the protection and healing power of God.
If the mind were to remain in tuned, in conversation, on the wavelength that we talked about, the spiritual wavelength, the wavelength that the soul can converse with that Supreme Being as a friend, instead of getting wrapped up in one's own thinking, one's own thoughts, or getting distracted by all that. So the protection is definitely there, but consciously the soul is not feeling it. And so is the protection physical? No, it's not physical. I can have shelter around me, I can have people around me, I can have all sorts of security around me, and yet I feel very insecure. So what is protection? Where does it come from? It is something that I decide and I choose. When I converse with my friend, the eternal friend, God, whom I made my friend, that conversation will automatically transpire some messages that my little soul will pick on, will connect to. And so many a times we define God as silence. So it is those silent moments, those pauses that we create within our being, which enables this light of enlightenment, to come in. And I'm able to really touch with my subtle eye and feel that connection, I feel that protection, and feel the answers coming to me.
It's actually only God's power that enables us to heal. What I experienced going through, it was a couple of years of treatment. So at a physical level, many things are happening, unpleasant things like chemotherapy and radiation. But at an inner level, perhaps even more unpleasant, you really get an opportunity to see yourself and to experience so many emotions that for me, I think my whole life, they were just buried underneath. So how can you heal if you don't even know that something is there? So an illness comes along, and actually it's a gift to show you that there is something that you need to address. You know, that illusion that my relationship with God is some sort of contract. Because what I learned was there are certain things God can do, and there are certain things God can't do. So let's go into reflection now, and let's think and perhaps experience what God can do. So once again, turning our focus inwards to that world of the spirit, the world of the soul, the silent world. And reconnecting with ourselves at that level. We are so accustomed to connecting with our physical identity. But now, quietly, connecting to the real self, the soul. When we look at ourselves like this, we do see that there are things inside that need to heal. Those qualities that actually bring pain and discomfort to ourselves. Perhaps it is fear, subtle fears of being judged or criticized. Perhaps it's a sense of low self-worth, that somehow I've never been good enough. Many things sitting inside. Let me ask the question, how does God see me? Can I just have a glimpse of God's vision of the soul? God, the Supreme Soul, only sees the soul. His relationship is with the soul. His love is for the soul. God sees that original form that I have lost sight of. The beauty, the divinity, the virtue, and the power. This pure vision heals the soul from deep within. We find we can let go of all those old beliefs and the old patterns. Just because God loves the soul.
The question that came to my mind was, how does one go about accessing this unlimited ocean of love and access some love from it? And as Sister Jayanti told us in the beginning, that once you've accessed it, you should also share it so that people around you are also experiencing the same. So how do we go about accessing the love and then sharing it?
Thank you. Belinda, that was a wonderful reminder that you gave us all. What is the vision that God has of me, right? I think that's beautiful. So God's vision for me. And that really reminds me of God's protection and healing power. And the image that comes to my mind here is that of an angel. Angel is that being unlimited, and you cannot hold it, you cannot catch it, and yet you say angel. And just the presence of an angel, the atmosphere that is generated in itself is giving the experience of protection. And just looking at the angel, if I'm lucky to see the angel, I can experience the power of healing in the wings of an angel. And it's like a huge protection, a canopy. So, God, unlimited. And God's helpers are unseen, but also they are unlimited. And so angels are the ones who are remembered as unseen helpers to God, who are also similarly unlimited. There's certain amount of work that we souls can do on ourselves. There's always a limit. But for either soul to continue to do this work, I need extra force. I need boost. And this is the boost that I see coming from these unseen angels. And who are these angels? I'll come to that. God being unlimited, no boundaries, no limits. Again, an image of the ocean, but also image of the sun. Unconditionally giving. And so it takes away all the fear, all the anxiety, all the resentment that we humans are holding, against God. or in that, awareness that whatever it is that I needed to be or achieve, I haven't achieved or I haven't become, that it's all because it's God's fault. It's easy to point the finger. But if I turn this around and I say a positive affirmation, by really allowing myself to accept and to just be. The meditations that we had, it actually confirms the whole experience of accepting one's own self, but also accepting this higher energy, the supreme energy that is there at our disposal.
Interesting. I think what I take from this is, also in today's world, that people resist being loved, resist taking love. So if you accept God and you accept the fact that He is all loving and all forgiving, and just take a dive into the depth of the ocean, you will find the pearls.
Love is such a loaded word in the world today, isn't it? 14th of February. And if someone forgets, what happens then? Someone didn't give me chocolates or roses or a card. So, of course, that is an expression of love at one level. But we do know that, and it's been said that the one who makes you happy is the one you love, right? The one who brings you joy. And I think that, as we also alluded to earlier, pardon me, we've been under the impression that God gives happiness, but He also gives sorrow. When we lose someone close to us and we say it was God's will, but we're taking sorrow from that. That's why we sometimes get angry with God when we lose things. But if we really understand that this being that we've been talking about is the ocean of love and does not know the concept of sorrow, does not know. So in our meditation now, let us explore understanding this love of the Supreme. Always our first step is to see the self. We are building a relationship that is subtle between the soul, the self, and God, the Supreme Soul. And so very important that we step into that subtle world of thoughts and feelings. We see ourselves as beings of light, tiny, radiant beings. We could use the word angels. These beings belong to God. We are the family of God as souls. That makes us brothers, not in a superficial way, but truly as spiritual brothers, children of the Father, but also children of the Mother. One thing we know about mothers is that they love unconditionally. Can we accept that right now God loves me, and that will never change? God is loving the soul.
It's about the topic of unlimited happiness, and I would request both sisters to comment on it briefly. Unlimited happiness sounds like something which cannot exist, because you've been always told when you're growing up, please don't laugh so much because you will end up crying tomorrow. So how, I mean, if it does exist, how can one access it, and what should we do to experience unlimited happiness in life?
Happiness is something that lies within each one of us, and we simply have to look within, and we went through the whole process today, and experience the treasure of happiness that's there within each one of us.
It's a sorry state that for most of us, happiness has become a luxury. And, you know, we constantly saying things like, when I achieve this, or when I go here, or when I see this person, then I will be happy. So we're constantly putting the criteria for our happiness on something that is outside of ourselves. We all do this, wanting things to go our way. But unlimited happiness is so different. We're talking this evening about very subtle things like God's love. God's love is not like the love of human beings that is always conditional and here today and gone tomorrow. And it's the same thing with this spiritual happiness. It is something that is our natural state. Very important in our daily lives to come fully into the present moment. Not to live in the past or the future, but to know each moment completely. As a soul, God is my eternal companion. Whether I'm aware or not, God is there. just knowing this brings a feeling of contentment, of fullness. Nothing to be achieved or added. Just this moment in the company of God.
So we had 5 steps from today. Know yourself, not the original identity that we live, but the inner self. Connect with God, establish a relationship, and also then experience His protection and healing. And what sticks to my mind is happiness and love from God is our birthright. It's for us to claim. So thank you, both sisters, and thank you, everybody.